drug transaction at the ATM. I mentioned that. A friend found him dead. Let's bring in Anna Yum. She's a criminal defense attorney. Anna, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Shepard.
I'm most interested in what can potentially happen to a drug dealer who sells drugs to a man who then dies.
Right. Well, I think there's a number of factors here, Shep. I think it's really going to start with the investigation to see if we can identify the two alleged drug dealers who allegedly sold the heroin to Philip Seymour Hoffman. And what could potentially happen is if these men are identified, the issue is what can they be charged with? Can they be charged with actual selling of controlled substances? And also, can they be charged with something more serious, such as secondary manslaughter, which in common terms is known as involuntary manslaughter? Can their acts amount to criminal negligence, which means that they acted so recklessly that caused the death of another? And that's something that could be told depending upon how this investigation surfaces.
You mentioned recklessly. Back in 2012, it was Minneapolis, Minnesota, not New York, but in Minneapolis, a drug dealer was convicted of murder in the third degree after something like this happened. And on top of that, we now know, after having watched this and been reading up about this, that there's a very rough strain of heroin that's been going around that I'm told heroin addicts knew all about.
Right. My understanding based upon this case with Philip Seymour Hoffman is that there were ace of hearts or ace of spades, and that there was a very potent type of heroin that was found in his apartment when officers conducted a search. And that's another issue. With that in mind, Shep, though, I do want to add that it's very difficult to prove these types of drug-induced homicides because it has to go with causation. How do you prove that the actual drugs that he ingested were the ones that were sold to him by the drug dealers? And if anything, how else do you prove that the heroin in and of itself caused his death and not something else, perhaps a combination of drugs? And so that's why I think the toxicology report is going to be very crucial in this case.
Anna Yum with us from San Diego. I think you're right about that, Anna. Thanks, especially when you get the word that they found more than 50 bags of heroin in the apartment. How do you know what was just a horrible ending?